Hi, everybody. So I've decided to experiment with making some videos, kind of like Miss Schmidt does. So today we're going to be starting a new chapter, chapter 5, and we're going to be doing some reading and some note-taking together. So here's what you need. You need to have the TCI website open to our textbook. You should have it at lesson or chapter 5, Ancient Sumer. There it is, and then you should be at section 1. You should also have, if you look to the right of the screen, your interactive student notebook pages for chapter 5, and you should have a pen or a pencil, something to write with. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to read section 1. This is the introduction. And you should be reading along with me. The rise of Sumerian city-states began around 3500 BCE. That's about 5,500 years ago. In this chapter, you'll take a closer look at life in Sumer. Like an archaeologist, you'll consider evidence to try to answer this question about the distant past. Why do historians classify ancient Sumer as a civilization? A civilization is a society that has developed arts and sciences and organization. Until about 150 years ago, archaeologists had no idea that the Sumerian people had lived at all. Then in the mid-19th century, that's the mid-1800s, archaeologists began finding artifacts in the area of the Fertile Crescent that we call Mesopotamia. They uncovered tablets, pottery, and the ruins of cities. They were surprised to find writing in a language they had never seen before. By studying artifacts, archaeologists have been able to learn a lot about Sumer. One artifact is called the Standard of Ur. It was found when the ancient city of Ur once stood. It is made of wood and decorated with pieces of shell and lapis lazuli, which is a semi-precious blue stone. The standard shows the Sumerians in times of peace and war. Artifacts like this one can tell us a great deal about daily life in ancient Sumer. We now know that the Sumerians had a complex society. Some of the things they invented, like the plow and writing, are still in use today, of course. But which characteristics of Sumer society cause historians to classify it as a civilization? Let's take a closer look at ancient Sumer. And guys, I'm going to turn the lights back on because they turned off. Okay. That's better. All right, so we're going to flip our notes to page 2, right? It's page 2, looks like this. And then we're going to read section 2 and then complete these notes together. So I'm going to go and change the section to section 2. Okay, section 2 is called Characteristics of Civilization. Sumer was a challenging place to live. It had hot summers, little rain, and rivers that flooded the plains in the spring. Yet the Sumerians were able to overcome these challenges. They built complex irrigation systems and large cities. By 3000 BCE, most Sumerians lived in powerful city-states like Ur, Lagash, Uruk. But what did the Sumerians do to create a civilization? To answer this question, we need to examine what civilization means. What characteristics make a society into a civilization? Historians name several such characteristics, including these ones. A stable food supply to ensure that the people of a society had the food they need to survive. So that's one of the characteristics of a civilization. You also need a social structure with different social levels and jobs. So you have people at the top and people at the bottom, and then some people in the middle as well. You also need a system of government to ensure that life in the society is orderly. A civilization will have a religious system, which involves both a set of beliefs and forms of worship. A civilization will have a highly developed way of life that includes the arts, such as painting and architecture, which is designing buildings. It will have music and literature. A civilization will also have advances in technology. Remember, we talked about technology. It's any kind of tool that helps people complete practical things. So a plow is a type of tool. In the same way that an iPhone, which I'm using to record this right now, is as well. A civilization also needs a highly developed written language. So you need a written language in order to qualify as a civilization. That's according to historians and archaeologists. Did Sumer have these characteristics? Does it qualify as a civilization? Let's find out what the evidence can tell us. First, though, we're going to go over to our interactive student notebook, if you look over to the right side of the page here, and we're going to complete this diagram. To do that, we're going to first write the title of the section in the large center circle. Then in each small circle, we're going to write one of the characteristics of civilization. And then next to each small circle, we're going to draw a picture or a symbol that represents that characteristic. So let's do step one, which is to write the title of the section in the large center circle. Now the title, if we look over to our textbook here on the left, characteristics of civilization. So I'm going to write that in. Characteristics of civilization. Characteristics are like features of something. They're the things that make it up. So we can already see that one of these circles is filled in here, technology. And you can see that there's a little symbol below it. This looks like a wheel. Remember, we talked about how the Sumerians were the ones who invented the wheel, literally. They're the ones who came up with it. So another characteristic is a stable food supply. So it's important to have a good way of getting food, and we know that a stable food supply is a food supply that comes from agriculture, where you're farming and you're raising livestock like sheep and cows and pigs and chickens as well. All right, another characteristic of civilization is a social structure. A social structure, it means that you have a society that has people at the top, has people in the middle, has people on the bottom. So the people on the top could be like the kings, the queens, the other leaders. The people at the bottom would be like the poor farmers. And the people in the middle might be the people who own shops and are create things, and maybe the business people. A civilization, another characteristic of civilization, is that the people have a system of government. A government is a way of ruling the country. It's a way to make decisions about how the society should be run. So we have a system of government that just had a presidential election, for example. Okay, another characteristic of civilization is a religious system. So civilizations generally have some kind of religion. Civilizations also have a highly developed way of life. That means they have arts, like painting. It means they have sciences, so they have a way of studying life. And then our last characteristic of civilization is a highly developed written language. That means the written language has come a long way. It's developed. So it's a highly developed written language. So we're going to be examining whether Sumer meets all of those qualifications. So what you can do right now is pause this video, and you can do step 3, which is to draw a picture or symbol that represents each of these characteristics. So for the social structure, maybe you have some kind of division here where you have people at the top, people in the middle, people in the bottom. Maybe the farmers are on the bottom of this social structure. The merchants or the business people are in the middle. And then you've got kind of the kings and queens at the top here. So your drawing does not need to be very complex. Okay, now I'm going to put that to the side, and we're going to read section 3, and then we're going to do the ISN notes for section 3. All right, so I'm going to navigate on the left side here to section 3. Now, section 3 is titled Stable Food Supply. Civilizations need a stable food supply. A complex society can thrive only if its members have the food they need to survive. The Sumerians invented 2 key things to help them create a stable food supply. One of these inventions was their complex irrigation systems. Now, we read about this, remember, in the previous chapter. The Sumerians built networks of canals, dams, and reservoirs to provide their crops with a regular supply of water. So that's the first invention. Their second invention was the plow. A plow is a tool used for tilling or turning the soil to prepare it for planting. Before the plow was invented, farmers used animal horns or pointed sticks to poke holes in the earth. Then they would plant the seeds in the holes. This was a very slow way to farm. Farmers needed a faster way to prepare the land for planting. The Sumerians made the first plow out of wood. One end of the plow was bent for cutting into the ground to turn the soil. Farmers themselves pushed and pulled the plow along the ground, or they used animals such as oxen to pull it. Okay, so that's section 3. Now we're going to look at the ISN page for section 3. So we're not going to worry about this top part here. Don't worry about that. We're just going to focus on this part here. So for section 3, it says, complete the flow chart below. In each box, write the name of a Sumerian invention that helped create a stable food supply. Remember, stable means solid. It means it doesn't move, it's solid. Explain what the invention was and how the Sumerians used it. Okay, so we're going to explain what the invention was and then also explain how the Sumerians used it. Sorry, the lights just went out again. I'm going to turn those back on. All right. Okay, so invention number 1 was the irrigation system. We just read about it and we learned all about it in the last chapter. So I'm going to write irrigation system down here. First, we're going to explain what that invention was, and then we're going to explain how the Sumerians used it. So it was a system of canals and dams, levees, and reservoirs. And the Sumerians used it. It allowed them to water their crops. And remember, it was so important because this area in Mesopotamia, either it flooded in the spring so it could wash away all their crops, and then the rest of the year it was really dry. So not a great place to farm unless you can control the water, which is what these people did with their irrigation system. Okay, invention number 2, that was the plow. Okay, now the plow, it helped farmers prepare the soil, prepare the soil for planting. So plows helped the farmers prepare the soil for planting. This made farming easier and quicker, and it helped the Sumerians raise more food, or grow more food, we should say. Okay, so these are our notes for section 3. And that's it for right now. If you guys need to go over anything, remember, you guys can fast forward, you can go backwards, you can pause this video. So this should really help you get a good sense of this chapter. Thanks for watching.